What's up, guys? Alvin Dias, representing the Nash Push podcast, and Nash right here. Today we have a special guest, guys. We got our first female guest ever on the podcast, and it is none other than Mrs. Katie Parsons. Welcome to the podcast, Katie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Really good, really good. It's actually so glad to, have you on the podcast. Because we got many questions that we want to ask you, about your fitness journey, etc. So, talk to us about yourself. Where you're from. How did you, get to fitness and all that stuff. Just introduce us to you. For the podcast.
Okay, sure. So, do you mean like initially where I'm from?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna go way back. I moved to New Zealand when I was 10, from England, and I was very much not a fit person at all.
Yeah.
Like zero sports, very lazy, very much if I had seen myself now from when I was that age, I would be like really confused. So definitely completely spun around since I was younger, but and I kind of got into fitness probably in my teens, and I think one of my boyfriends in high school was really into the gym, so I started going, and then kind of got more into a little bit of sports and stuff, and then I think I kind of probably around, I went to uni first to do a paramedicine degree. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then when I got to the point where I was doing like ambulance shifts and like hospital shifts and stuff, I kind of realized that like I loved the job, but in New Zealand, St. John's a charity. And they're like overwhelmingly underfunded. And it was only my second year of uni that paramedics had to have a degree to do it. So, it was a little bit all over the show. So that's when I changed to nutrition for my degree. So that's what I now have finished. It took me 6 years to get a 3-year degree.
Wow.
That's because
that's all good, trust me.
That's
what counts at the end of the day. You got it done, Katie.
Because at the same time, and I think this kind of benefited me in the end, was because when I obviously I didn't waste the 2 years, but I had the 2 years of the other degree, and then I did some part-time, some full-time, because I started doing PT at the same time. So I think I was really lucky to be at the end of my degree and having already had 5 years experience in the industry. Because the reason I chose nutrition was because I kind of finally got to a point where I was really comfortable with myself. I kind of grew up with a lot of insecurities about my body. Wow. And the main bottom line reason that I got into it is because I didn't want anyone to feel about themselves the way I felt about myself, which sounds really sad now. I wish I could talk to my younger self and just be like, you're so stupid. But I think it doesn't matter what size you are. If you're feeling that way, you have to do something about it. So I think there's 100%. Been a big psychological shift through all of these phases of my life. And so that's kind of wound me up to where I am now. It's just, that's pretty much the intro into
cool.
how I got to
That's
where
awesome.
I am.
That's awesome. What about so with what you're saying with the insecurity side, how have you now that you where you're at now, how have you continued to remind yourself that you're not defined by the nutrition side and that the fitness side it's more something that you're just maintaining and you're working to get better at? How are you working on making sure that that's not something that defines you?
What, in terms of me being healthy, not defining me, or
more just defining your identity? Because how you're saying, you found in the past that you were a lot of the insecurities that you had were to do with not sort of looking the ideal person. How do you tell yourself every day that, you know, or how do you, what do you do to tell yourself every day that it's not something that should define you? It's more just something that you're looking at, just maintaining healthy and all.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting, because as I've got older, it's become more about like health and stuff like that, as opposed to aesthetics. Because I basically originally set out being like, I want to be a bodybuilder, I want to look like that. I think it kind of all, like, it's actually a bit, I feel like, easier to be comfortable at any size now because of social media. Because like I feel like growing up in the 90s, it was very much like Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, stick figure, you know. And then I started, and that was like the thing, you know. And so I grew up with that ideology of that was beauty in my mind. And this was before social media, so it was like mainstream media was all we saw, and that's all you saw, right? So then I felt like there was something wrong with me. Whereas I feel like a part of it is that now obviously everyone embraced the curves, and I think there's something that's really important to remember, and that is that with every era there is a different ideal body type, and you can't keep up 100%. With different eras. So I think when you realize that standards of beauty only come in phases, you then start to realize that you just got to work with what you've got. And I think that was a big step in the right direction. But I think it comes down to, like, if you're like, I'm definitely, it comes with age, I think. I'm basically being more comfortable with yourself. But I mean, everyone has like down body image days. You've just got to make a little way of dealing with it. So like on days I'm feeling really good, I might wear really bright gym gear and like have my tummy showing, and you know, that's when I'll shoot workout videos because I'm like, I'm all in. Wow. And then I might go through a phase for a couple of weeks, and for the girls it's generally like cycle related. But I mean, it could not be, but that's when you just, you know what, you put something on that you feel good in, you do something that makes you feel good, and instead of focusing on what you look like, you use like sensory triggers. So, you know, I might light a candle, listen to some good music, have a coffee, you know, do things that like bring you up in other ways that don't involve staring at yourself.
Nice.
Like you don't have to be looking perfect to, you know, be happy, right?
Yeah.
Like, exactly. Yeah.
Very, very happy, no makeup on, hoodie on, trackies. You know, what are you doing in that time? You know, like that's kind of how I manage my bad self-image days, or how I kind of, you know, keep reminding myself that it's not everything.
Cool. Nice.
It's so good that you're actually sharing this, because obviously, you know, you are the NZ muscle poster go. You know, we go everywhere, and we see Katie's picture everywhere. You know, so
is this you now?
Yep. So it's actually good, because a lot of females who are watching this podcast, you know, when they see you as a person, they can be like, you know, obviously they see this super fit girl. You know what I mean? That's what they see. That's the first image that comes to their mind. But that's what I mean. They don't know that what you've been through as well to get to there, you know? A lot of people think that you got to this point, you were genetically gifted or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I've been asked this question a lot, like, oh, have you always been fit and really into sports and athletics?
Exactly. Yes.
And it makes me laugh because it's just so not. Like, I would do anything to get out of PE and cross country.
Wow.
Don't even talk about beep tests. Like,
I was the same. I hated beep tests. Man. Oh my goodness!
If you like beep tests, you're a freak.
We used to hate it too. We used to like anyone.
I'm not the only one then.
Trust me.
I think the people that love the beep tests are the only ones. Like exactly one or two. Yeah.
Sorry, Katie,
there's only a couple of them out there.
What school did you go to?
I went to Rangi Toto College.
Nice.
So were you born in 1997, 98? For real?
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, I'm 27. How old did you think I was?
I thought you were like, no, seriously. I thought you were
a very straight up question, Alan.
Yeah,
I know, but like,
Well, I'm
I know,
starting counting backwards now. So.
People are gonna hate me for this. Alvin, you shouldn't be asking a girl
Yeah,
age. Guys,
you know what? It's a compliment. You thought I was younger. That's why
guys,
I was like, you guess the year.
Guys, you need to understand this podcast is all real. Okay, we keep it real. We answer all honest questions. So people should exactly. We don't hide anything here. This is not scripted.
I love how you.
This is all real.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I love how you. I love how you just actually answered it, because other people would have probably, I don't know, logged off.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no shame in aging. I think there's something that, like, you know, every year of my life has gotten better.
That's
why are you fearing age? You know what I mean? Like, you're always layering on top of this life, and it just, like, every year gets better. So, like, I don't see aging.
Exactly. I mean, you know, that's what I asked Katie.
You know, expiry date. You know what I mean?
No, you don't. Exactly. I mean, that's why I asked Katie. Are you know, like, you know, were you born 97 or 98? Because you look younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought you were. Younger than us too, as well. Just
really?
Because I'm 94.
Let's turn the tables.
Now, go first.
I'm 20. I'm turning 27 in 4 months time.
I'm your senior.
Yeah, but not that much though.
Yeah.
And
you?
I just turned 27 in June.
Oh, guys!
But guess what, Katie?
You need to understand. Old here.
No.
People think I'm like 32, 33. Trust me. So
well, you can really tell. Like my boyfriend, he's turning 32 this year, and he looks like 36.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Trust me, you know, guys are always like I get all the time, Alvin, you 33? I'm like, no, I'm 94. Check my ID. You know what I mean?
Check my ID.
Literally, because I think the years of bodyboarding has caught up to me finally, you know, so it makes me like an older person.
That's why I only did one show.
You're smart. Keep it that way.
Nah.
So, I mean, Katie, you know, we were going to ask you, you know, another question that I was actually going to ask you. How did you get into like the face of ends and muscle? Like, how did this happen? You know, talk to us about that.
Interesting story. Okay, so I was working at another gym, and I had like my office set up there and everything. And then I got a message from Grant, who was the manager of the gym at the time. I was asked to do a photo shoot for the gym opening for the website. And they asked me if I wanted to work there. And I actually initially said no, because I was happy where I was. And and then I completely this is the best thing that's happened to me. The gym actually ended up closing because the owner, I don't know what happened. Something happened with the lease. And so they basically ended up moving the gym. So I was like, oh, actually, I would love to work there. And that was the best decision I've ever made, ever. And I'm so glad, like, if I could go back, like, I would have punched myself in the face to say no the first time, because that would have been the biggest mistake ever. But I think, like, then I was way more comfortable and less, like, you know, like, I had my comfortable little zone and I was too scared to step out of it. And I think it was like a sign from life that, like, pushed me out of it. And then, so that's kind of how that came about. Because I feel like Enzo Muscle itself has grown a lot in that time. The gym started doing really well. Grant and I were the first trainers there. I'm still the only female trainer there, like nearly 4 years later. I just started, they brought up, I do like collabs and stuff like that. Like, people would send me gym gear or whatever. And they wanted me to be an ambassador. And it was actually Grant that asked Dion, the owner. He was like, oh, I think we should make this official. And Dion's like, okay, we'll make you an ambassador. And then it all kind of just, I don't know why. I don't know, we just built this like awesome relationship. Like I love Dion and Sean, the owners, and like everyone that works there. And like I see a lot of them multiple times a week, and they said, oh, we've got this new fitness gear, like do you want to shoot in it? And then like all of the pictures that are on the buildings and stuff like that, when I was shooting them, I had no idea they were going to go on a building. Like
Wow. Yeah.
and like so
Wow.
when I was shooting this, it was more for like the clothing and like you know, I think they were never like, this is going to go on the gym, or this is going to go on the HQ building, or this is going to go in the new store in Queen Street. It was just kind of like we were just having fun shooting the stuff, and then it just kind of ended up happening. I think that I don't know, I'm very lucky. I'm really happy that they
for sure, 100%.
Nice. What about so with that being said, with NZ Muscle, are you with the modeling side as well as sort of the photo shoot side of things, are you wanting to pursue that even longer, or as much as they want you, or is the plan to maybe pass on the mantle and then you maybe focus on other things?
Do you mean focus? What do you mean focus on other things?
Maybe focusing on the PTing side, because what I tend to see is a lot of people when they're doing modeling, like you gave an example of Naomi Campbell, she tends to sort of pass on the mantle to the younger people, you know, when she's done that over the years. I'm so
sure now that everybody knows I'm 27, that my
quite young.
Nash, you need to hold up. Nash, Kate is still 27, bro.
No, I know.
Years to go.
That is still that's very young. I'm 27 soon. What I'm trying to say is more down the line of, are you wanting to do this long term, or are you wanting to maybe, I don't know, move on to other things down the line?
I think eventually they'll probably choose someone else in my place.
But that's like a long way. So it's like at least.
I hope so. I think one day it'll be a sad day when it's like, Katie, you're too old for this now.
It's
hopefully not because of age though. Because
I mean, there will be a day where they take me off the building, but it'll be a sad day.
It's gonna be a while, Katie. Don't worry.
It's gonna be a long time. Trust me.
No one's gonna replace you at this point.
It had nothing to do with age.
I haven't thought about the end yet. It feels like it's just the beginning. Already.
I was like, "Yo, Nash, what do you ask? Like, where's this question going? You know,
the end is looming.
It
had nothing to do with age. It was more to do with, do you maybe want to do other things? You know,
I know.
Exactly. This is just we're just joking, yeah.
That's
awesome.
No, I mean, I love doing it. I love the thing that's really what I love about having been at NZ Muscle is that for the first time as a trainer and an online coach, I feel like I have like a working community.
It's like a family.
Yeah, it's like it's a very lonely job. I mean, obviously you're training people, but you're doing everything yourself. So I love that I feel like a part of something. So there is no way I'd want to move on from that as long as I can.
Did you
100%?
Did you say 100%. Wait? I didn't hear that last part. Did you say it was a lonely job, or did you say it was a
lonely job in terms of, like, say for example, because my coaching app's going to be launched. I think it should be ready. It should be ready next month.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. I did see that.
Yeah, and I'll eventually, as I want to start a family and stuff, I'll, a few years time, I'll be working more from home.
Cool.
And that's the kind of stuff that will make me still feel connected. Like, I feel like, I see people all day, every day, and I love that. But when I'm in between clients, I'm like alone in my office. And it's just me handling things, and I don't really have room to hire anyone because I don't have a reason to hire anyone, So I think it does make me feel like a part of a little working family, and I feel like it just feels like a part of the whole thing. And I don't see a point where I would ever choose to walk away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
I think the first time I saw Katie was I got coached by Jeremy for a long time in my
Oh, yeah?
competitions. So my wife and I, we used to go to NZ Muscle 2019. We used to come there every night. I think it was every night, I can't remember. Afternoons. And I think, Katie, you probably finished your competition. You were like 2-3 months after your competition, and you really looked like I don't know. I mean, not shredded, but you looked like fresh out of comp. And then after that, I think I heard, I don't know, someone said to me that you got prepped by Bree for a comp back in, I think that was 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018.
August. Yeah. That's right. So you
Mhm.
competed as a bikini athlete in the IFBB Federation, right?
Yes. Yes, I
So
did.
take us through that whole process, because obviously, me, I'm still a competitor as well, and so is Nash. But take us through that experience of like, how did you accept that feeling of competing, and how did you what did you feel, getting ready for that show? How long was the prep? And also post show as well, which is very important, because right now I'm actually preparing some girls, and I know these girls are going to watch this podcast because they're fans of you. So take us through that whole process from the pre-show to going into the show and after the show. Take us through, for example, how long was the prep and how did everything go?
Well,
and also one thing also, like, what made you do that bodybuilding competition? You know what I mean?
I think that when I initially, and I've mentioned this before, when I first started training, or like was doing my PC course, I was working at Liz Mills, and like there's quite a lot of bodybuilders there.
Heads of meatheads.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they like really inspired me, and I think my initial goal was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be a bikini pro, and that's what I want. And I think like coming forward, so I would have been like 20 or 21, and then coming forward to 2018, I would have been like 25. So this was like quite a few years after that. I was kind of like really trying to sort out my like PT life, like work and stuff, and build up a client base, and I never really had the time, energy, or money or anything like that to make it happen. I mean, I was getting into my last bits of uni, and I'd just been asked so many times, like, when are you going to compete? When are you going to compete? And I was just like, screw it, I'll do it. I'll just give it a go. And then because I was like, if I don't try it, I'll always look back and be like, why didn't I just try it? So I gave it a whirl, and I started prepping myself, because this is a time, and I've learned a lot since then, this was a time where I felt as though if I asked for help from someone, it would make me seem like I wasn't as good at my job. So like, that's just the truth of it. And I got like, 6 weeks in, and I was just like, this is not happening. The show's in, I think it was in like 10 or 12 weeks or something. And I was like, I'm not ready. Was
your prep 12 weeks? Like, was your prep 15 weeks, or like was it a 16-week prep?
It was like a lazy 6 weeks that I did. And then it was like a full-on intense 10 or 12. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
I reached out to Bree because she was coaching out of NZ Muscle. I was like, help me. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Wow.
Help. And she was amazing. Amazing. Definitely recommend her as a coach.
Shout out to Bree. Bree is the manager at Snap Fitness Constellation Drive now.
Yeah.
She'll be on this podcast soon, eh?
Yeah, she's gonna be the next after Katie, so we're gonna have her.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's lovely. I was absolutely like, I was terrified of what I was doing. And I had no confidence posing. I was an absolute, like, honestly, I just, like, she did amazing with me. Because I had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, so we basically so the way and this shows how little I knew, I was eating like 1,500 calories at that point, she like put my calories up, and I feel like that was a phase, and it shows how much I've learned since then. I learned a lot from doing this comp. I basically, was still so scared to put my calories up, and she so she told me all about that. It was very intense because I didn't have much time in terms of kind of starting from scratch, like 12 weeks, 10 weeks up. And it was very full on with uni because August is right around exam time as well. But I made it work. It was like, I think, working out maybe 5 or 6 days a week, and then like 40 minutes on the Stairmaster and 40 minutes of like incline treadmill every day. And then it was very intense.
How many calories were you on? Like,
I was actually about to ask that
like,
as well.
Like start of the prep and then towards the end of the prep, because obviously this seems like a short prep for you, right? It's like a 6-week prep.
I would never prep in that amount of time. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. It completely screwed with my hormones. It was massive stress on my body. I'll get to this, but my eyes stopped working. It's real weird.
So hold up. So are you so hold up. Do you recommend people to do longer preps or short preps?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Exactly. Commit to the long game.
Good.
Otherwise you'll be paying for it for about a year after.
Yeah, that's probably if there's something that people can get out of that, it's that out of this podcast episode. Yeah,
do not put your body through what I put mine through, because like the way it came out, like I was really, really so happy and so proud of myself. Like I came second, but I was just so happy with like the fact that I was able to do it. I think it gave me a whole new level of belief in myself. It was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I've learned so much, but my body was like shutting down. And like anyone on the day is generally feeling like that anyway. But the aftermath of trying to regulate my hormones and everything like that, so especially for the girls, and like we got down to like, so peak week, so I'm really blind. I wear contact lenses. So if anyone wears glasses, this is a 7, this is a 7.5. And if you know what that means, that's really bad. It's like I am blind. And in peak week, my eyes like swelled up and like I couldn't see or like open out of them. And I was like wearing my glasses and everything was blurry. And I feel like my body was just like, nah, I've had enough. And like the first thing to go in my eyes was really weird. Luckily on show day, for some reason they were fine. But like I could feel that like
maybe the carbs.
Like every week. But I feel like everyone else has got like a real big gain structure, like a bulk and a shred structure. I had zero structure until the last second. And that, like, I feel like I could have done so much better if I had made it a long-term thing. But I kind of was just like, I'm going to do this, you know? Like, I really wanted it. I was in it to win it, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I think that, like, making sure that you find a coach who knows what they're doing and cares about you, you know, not being afraid to take their advice, because there were things that obviously she told me to do that I was like, oh God, I would never have made myself do that kind of thing, you know? But I think, it's a very interesting process, but I think like it kind of ended up being like, after doing that comp, I really wanted to do another one, but it kind of ended up being that it now sort of conflicts with everything I promote, because I promote health. And when I started like to be a PT, I thought that was healthy. When I saw the bodybuilders, I thought they are like the elite like level of health, like, you know, like right up there. And then I realized after that show that it's actually really, really unhealthy.
100%. I agree with you.
We talked about that last week.
Going through it.
Yes, we did. Actually, you know, me and Nash actually, you know, talked about this last week, because, you know, people think it doesn't matter if you're taking gear. It doesn't matter. Trust me, I've done 10 natural shows, you know, and I've never competed with anabolic steroids, you know. guys, it is not fun. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like,
It's like, I think the thing though is that like it is another level of mental growth
Yeah.
and strength
exactly.
that you cannot get
Exactly.
by doing anything else.
Mm.
Like
Because
you've got to enjoy the journey because, and IFBB especially, you're only on stage for like
10
oh,
minutes.
2
trust me.
minutes.
Well, probably.
Like,
If you
No,
put a
not
big
even
group, not even
I
that.
10
I'm
had
minutes.
come to see
thinking
it
big
and they
No
groups.
way.
completely missed
Yeah.
me. Like, you know, I like literally you do all of that prep for like 2 minutes on stage. Unless you're doing WBFF, you get a lot more. But they didn't have WBFF in New Zealand at that time. And you know, so if you're not, it's a journey that you have to want to go through. Otherwise, you will absolutely quit. Like, there's no doubt about it because the whole thing is about the prep, not necessarily actually the show. Really, is it? Like, yeah, you get the good photos and the photo shoot and the end result, but like, you know,
I think
if people who are professional bodybuilders or, you know, and like yourself who are like into bodybuilding, like if you're not doing it for the prep, like, you know, you'll just be hating life, right?
That's what we were talking last week. Ego is not the way to go when you do the sport. You know what I mean? It's for a purpose. You know, me and Nash are talking about this because there are a lot of people, especially today with social media, Nash and Katie. Instagram is a platform where, I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm very honest with this podcast. You know, it really screws up a lot of female mindsets and male mindsets too.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand there are so many girls that me myself, because I've been a trainer for 6 years now. You know, I've been a coach for about 2 years now. Actually, yeah, about two years. And when the females that I train and they come up to me, they're like, "Oh, Alvin, I see this girl on Instagram. You know, she looks so amazing.
Wow.
Can you please help me to get?" I'm like, whoa. Stop right there. You know, and they actually show me these bikini girls, you know, like girls who go on stage or like WBFF divas or whatever. I'm like, guys, you don't understand what these girls go through.
That's not
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You literally look like that for one day.
One day.
It's almost like
you look like that for one day. And I think that's like, yeah, I think that's what got me though, you know, and I completely can relate to that. And I think it's, just realizing what realistic beauty standards are. And it does mess with it. Like, I'm friends with quite a few people who've done bodybuilding and spoken to a lot of people who have. And like me personally as well. And I'm sure it's the same for men as it is for women. You get used to see yourself so shredded that you look at that as you being your best. But obviously you only have that for like one day and all these photos or like, you know, leading up to it. And then there's this whole like mental thing of like realizing that the most shredded you've ever been is not the necessarily like what you should always be aiming for, you know?
Yeah. And also a lot of coaches themselves, especially in New Zealand, you know, what they don't talk about to these athletes is the post-show trauma or whatever you call it, right? You know, it's actually very important to talk about that and say, look, you're going to look like this. You're going to have a 20-week prep. Trust me, throughout the prep, you're going to look amazing. But what's important is when those hunger levels starts to come in after the prep, like you want. All right. So anyway, Katie, so, you know, a lot of people come through that post-show trauma, right? This is because people don't understand that, you know, being a competitor yourself, you want to strive for the best when you do a show. You know, you want to go out there, do your cardio. You want to go out there, perform well in the gym, get your meals right. Because, you know, there's a day that's going to come in which you want to look like a Greek statue on stage. This goes to everyone, bikini girls, bodybuilders, whoever you are, who's going to go on stage. Tell us about, so you placed second in that comp, right?
Yeah, I was really, really proud of myself for that.
Which is awesome, which is so good because in my first comp, I only, you know, my first comp, I placed fifth. So that is amazing, Katie.
Yeah,
especially your first
medal I had ever won in my life. So
because not many people place in their first comp. Let's be honest.
So remind me again, you came second out of how many people?
Honestly, I'd have to I'm not really sure.
Maybe like a rough estimate or something.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember how many girls are on stage. I mean, bikini is quite a big
Bikini is big.
Yeah.
At least 6-7 people. Has to be.
Honestly,
6, 7, 8 people.
I can't tell you. I can't remember. It was quite a few girls though.
But yeah, that's impressive.
I'm short, so I was in the short category. as well.
Yeah.
But obviously the girl who like won overall and stuff, she was like amazing, but just completely different body type to me. So I think that's another thing I took away from it, is that they know what they're looking for. And like my body would never have looked like hers. You know what I mean? Like it's just not my anatomy. So that's why I was really proud, because I just, you know, though it doesn't matter if I did exactly what she did, I would never have looked like her, because our bone structure was different, and that was just the look they were looking for.
Can I just ask you a question there as well? What did you tell yourself? Because that's a really good mindset that you had in terms of comparison. What did you with that second place finish, what did you keep telling yourself, and what's the advice that you can give to listeners around comparing themselves on competition day to maybe the person that's won, or maybe they're seeing another person?
I think, honestly, like from what I've noticed, because I've been following it for quite a long time, and there's obviously the general like boulder shoulders and glutes, like tight hammies, all that jazz. My hammies, I know they weren't in tight enough, and I knew that already. And like I think, and that's just because I have a lot of cellulite, like naturally anyway. But it's, I think that like kind of like what I said in terms of like, you know, you could look the same as a girl one year at who won, and then the next year you might not win looking like that. You know, they just tend to look for, you know, a specific look. You don't know what they're looking for, and you know, if you don't have the bone structure, that's not your fault. You know, and or like exactly. I mean, you know, on show day, if you didn't give it your all, I know I gave it absolutely everything I had. You know what I mean? So I think
that's what counts.
It depends on, I did it for me, because I'd never in my life gone, like in my adult life, gone that long sticking to nutrition, gone that long sticking to a training plan, gone that long not drinking. Like that for me was like the hugest achievement, to know that I had that level of self-control. And I think if you've given it all you've got, like, and you don't win, you can't beat yourself up about that, because you know, it's only when you know, if you fold, or if you know, like, because in my mind, and like Bree laughed at me, I remember being like, I came up to her in the gym and I was really upset, and I was like, I broke my diet. She's like, oh no, like what did you do? I was like, I had like 100 grams more chicken, and she was like, oh my god.
I swear, like, I thought you were about to say junk food.
I thought you were gonna say like I ate like a pack of Tim Tams.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Like that was but that was my interpretation of how strict you needed to be. And then I later found out that people were sneaking bags of Toppy Pops and like stuff like that, and that happened. And I was like, for me, I was just like, wow, I just need to chill out just a little bit.
100 grams
I mean, it's
chicken.
all like, I think it's definitely probably the biggest, like if you need to have a reason big enough to keep you on track.
100%.
And if you're not staying on track, like, then, you know, you need a better reason, right?
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Because I just don't feel like I have, like, because people have asked me if I'm going to compete again, and I just don't know if I have that reason anymore.
That's what I was going to ask you as well, actually, a little bit later on after this. Katie, how was your so say you came second and all that, right? How was the post show? Like, how did you feel after that? Like, what did you go through this typical like, oh my goodness, I ate like a horse for a week and I gained like 7-8 kilos?
Oh no, not like that. But I remember this happened like, obviously, like some of my clients came to support me. They're amazing, and they brought me like a box of Krispy Kremes, and we went out to a bar called Tallulah's. So if you've ever been there in Auckland, it's like a tiki bar, and they're all like real like thickly drinks and stuff. And I went out, and like the first thing I did was I went and partied, because I hadn't had a drink in 12 weeks, and I love a cheeky beverage, like
of course.
And you know, I just had fun with it, and generally, like since I've come into nutrition, like I enjoy eating healthy anyway. But there was one So I didn't do too badly, but in terms of like binging or anything like that. But there was one night where Halo Top, the ice cream, you might know, they launched in New Zealand, and they had a launch event, and they had tables, like giant tables lined with chocolate, donuts, like everything sweet you can imagine. And there was like 5 of these massive tables, and no one was barely touching it. And I'd just come out of my comp, and I went absolutely nuts. Like I was like, because like you get that insulin spike, and your hormones just go eat it. And so like I took home like buckets of stuff. It was bad, like, and that made me really sick. And that was like, and how I felt after doing that, I was like, I'm never doing that again, because it was like the aftermath of just like, because your body is just like, feed me, and that's just the natural response you have to having carbs anyway, right? You have carbs, and generally it spikes your insulin, and it makes you crave more carbs, and so that was probably the only time that really got me good, and I definitely learned my lesson, because I was violently ill after that from all the chocolate.
That's some good advice for listeners.
But I think like I reverse dieted pretty well.
That's nice.
I could have done it more structured, but I had like the initial night out, and then that like full on chocolate binge, and then after that I think that's kind of what set me straight, and just being like, okay, I just need to start building it up and recomping.
Yeah. Nash, are you a binge eater after comp?
Well, I guess I'm similar to Katie in the fact that I know that I can be. I have the potential to be. Because naturally but I guess I think it's based on your advice actually, Alwyn. When you said not to go too hard too quickly, just kind of take it slowly and stuff. So by nature, yes, to answer your question, but I have to apply a lot of accountability and self-discipline in order to make sure that that I don't binge eat, because when that happens, especially with the comps that I did over the years, where it's close to Christmas time, it's like back into New Year's looking pretty chunky, man. So
it's like you prep like so good, and then you're like, the show is in like October. Let's go flex, do our thing, and I'm like, I can't die for another 2 months. I don't care about Christmas. I'm just gonna get chunky.
Yeah, exactly. Thinking you can get away with it when you can't,
you just can't.
Yeah. Let's ask some quick fire questions.
Yeah, let's go.
What? Let's do it.
So we do have some questions from some girls. I think Nash. Let's go, Nash. I think
So what advice? So this is maybe sort of aside from the competing side. This is just from a fitness perspective. What is one of the questions I keep getting a lot, and this is really good that you've been on the podcast, is just around consumption of alcohol. What is your take on that, and what is too much if you're going to the gym, if you're looking after yourself from a healthy perspective, and all that side of things?
I think there's like, when I give people this advice, it comes down to a lot of factors and like where they're at and what their goals are. I mean, say if you've got someone who's complaining, I've had clients who are complaining of skin issues, stomach issues. They're the ones I'd just say absolutely scrap it for now. Because for example, like I get eczema, and I notice that if I drink alcohol, it worsens because it's acidic, right? So you want to alkalize your body. So that's like, in terms of that. In terms of like your general person, it depends. Like you don't want to, and there's something I tell my clients, you can balance out the calories. You can't balance out the nutrients. So if you're wanting to gain muscle, you can get away with it if you're happy to be eating in a significant surplus. If you want to do like a lean bulk, I wouldn't recommend it, because you're not going to take away your food, right? Whereas if you're wanting to shred, you could then, you know, balance out the calories, but then it comes back to the nutrients, like, you know, it just affects your health. So then if you were going to, you know, if you've got fat loss goals and you know, you're not going to be in a deficit while drinking, then you need to work. And I think, like, don't drink the sugary, syrupy, liqueur-y stuff. Just straight spirits and soda with lemon and lime. Lemon or lime helps to alkalize it a little bit, and also having it with soda water keeps you hydrated at the same time. Because essentially you're having this much water for every this much alcohol. And the leaner you get, the more lightweight you are. So remember that. I would stay away from wine and beer. If your goals are, well, generally for, you know, like, say like a glass of red wine out for dinner or a few glasses sharing a bottle, like, that's fine. But if you're going out and drinking 2 bottles of wine each weekend, you're not going to get where you want to go. I, you know, I'm not exactly like in the phase of my life, I'm kind of past where I'm like, let's go out to town this weekend and get some drinks on. I'm more in the phase of like,
I think we all are in that phase now.
Like
100%. I was never in the phase.
Same. I was in that phase as well.
Like when and you can kind of look back on, and I've posted a few, like, you know, images of myself, and like the first image is me like a little bit chubbier. The middle image is me like really like at my lightest weight, like quite thin, and I was partying a lot, drinking a lot, I was smoking a lot. I was just the absolute like pit of my health. But the thinnest I'd ever been. So I was about 10 kilos lighter than I am now.
But you were probably unhealthy as.
Oh, absolutely. No, you can't translate being thin as health. Like, some people are really healthy and thin. I was not built to be that thin.
Wow.
Like, it's just the way
it's not who you are.
It was like, in order for me to stay that thin, I would have to be unhealthy to stay there. Whereas some people are like, you know, you've got to look at, like, you know, like, I know some people who can eat whatever they want and they're still really thin, you know?
Yeah.
It totally depends on, like, you know, I always say, like, look at it from a health perspective. Like, do you want to be looking like this and be falling apart on the inside?
Wow.
You know, but you want that kind of balance. Like, I think naturally as humans, we bond over food and drink, and that's totally normal. And, you know, if I'm drinking, like, there's a lot more like low sugar drinks now and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot more variety than, say, when I was younger. It was either you drank full sugar or wine. That was all they really had. I mean, you just gotta be mindful. Just, you know, if you've got goals, you've just got to figure out what you need to do to maintain them. Like, it all comes down to surplus or deficit. And if you're not tracking things, you won't know. And it's very person dependent. But, you know, like, having a couple of drinks is not going to severely impact your health, but it might affect your goals.
100% agree.
Very good.
100% agree.
Another question that a very common question that we tend to get is around stepping foot in the gym for maybe the first time. You know, that is a scary thought for a lot of people, which is understandable. What advice can you give to someone who's thinking about stepping foot into the gym but is sort of struggling with that final obstacle of actually stepping into it? They've signed up for the gym, all of that, but it's the whole, oh man, you know, what if everyone's looking at me, and, you know, all those lines.
I want that person to know that whether it's a guy or a girl, like, everybody has been through that. Like, everyone 100%. Who goes to the gym, unless you're a naturally like confident person, feels like that. Like, if I go into a new gym space, I feel a bit like that, and I know what I'm doing. Like, you know, it's just about being comfortable in your environment. Like, if you start a new job, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but you're going to do it anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think, like, and especially like in NZ Muscle, and this is what I love about NZ Muscle, is that, like, everyone's so, like, they're really friendly, but everyone's like, I know what I need to do here. Like, everyone's focusing on themselves. And if anyone's looking at you, I promise you they're being like, oh, they look so good. Like that's you. Like the only time I've ever had, like if I'm training clients, I've had clients like stare at other members and be like, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. Oh, he looks amazing.
Wow.
Like that's the only, I've never heard anyone be like, they don't look like they know what they're doing. Like, what are they doing here? And if if there's trainers around, if you look like you don't know what you're doing, they're going to help you. If you don't know what you're doing, ask for help. That's what we're here for. That's why we have this job.
Great.
I would never look at someone with terrible form and just allow them to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think like you've just got to stick to what you're comfortable with. The way I used to ease into it when I was in my teens starting was I always like, I would go on cardio first and I'd kind of scope out the room. And then I'd kind of look at like, okay, I know which machine works. It looks free. Okay, I'm going to go on there. And then when I'm finishing my sets on that one, I kind of look around the room. Just start with machines and then you'll start getting like alternate with free weights. And then once you've learned your form with, you start easing it, just take it baby steps.
Nice.
That's the easiest way because that's how everybody starts.
We've all, all of us have had this problem. I remember when I first started lifting at the age of 16, I didn't go to a proper gym until I was 18 because I was really skinny and I just didn't have no confidence. So I used to train at the grammar gym for like 1.5 years because the confidence issue was really a big factor because I don't want to go to a crowd and see like, are the other people going to judge me? So I think the big take where people need to understand is that everyone in the gym is there for a purpose. Do you know what I mean? No one's there for, unless if you are really a douche, then no one's there for actually to put you down. Everyone's there to support you.
Very good.
Absolutely.
I think, Katie, in your case, do you think there are some girls who see you and can get intimidated because obviously you're this shaped girl and like, I don't want to go to Ends
really
Muscle because she's always working.
I'm very friendly.
You do come across like that,
mean, right? Yeah, you do. But like,
try to like, I don't know. I would hate for someone to find me intimidating.
Yeah, but the society these days, they see all these fit people and because I've had quite a few people like who doesn't want to go to Snap or they don't want to go to Ends Muscle because they see fit people, right? What's your take on that? And what's your advice to these people on that? Like, because obviously, they think all these people are judging you. Do you know what I mean?
No, not at all. I mean, okay, first of all, if everyone's already into it and that's it, they're not going to be thinking about anyone else.
Yeah.
And secondly, like, and this is something that I realized from having gone, like starting at Les Mills and then going to a private studio and then going to another gym and then going to NZ Muscle. The initial, because I said before, I initially said like no to working there because I thought it was a bodybuilder's gym. And that was the reason I initially said no. I was like, I don't know if my clients are going to go there. And then as I learned and the other gym was closing, they're like, no, everybody's welcome. But I think there's still that like, idea. But I realized from going there that like there's a great thing in not ever being the strongest or fittest person in the room. Like, have you ever like heard the saying like you don't want to ever be the smartest person in the room?
Yeah.
Like, how are you supposed to, if you're surrounded by people that you're like fitter, stronger, like, not saying that you're smarter than anyone, but you get the idea. Like, you can only grow if you're around people who know more than you, or you can learn from, or
Great.
So it's a
100%.
good thing to be surrounded by people who are on chapter 10 of their journey as opposed to chapter 1. Like, it's a chapter thing. It's not like anything to do with anyone being better than anyone else. But like, say, like, if I am now 10 years into my journey and you're just starting, of course you're not going to be there.
Yeah, good.
You know what I mean? Like,
100%. Really good.
So good.
Really good.
Yeah, it's thank you so much for joining us. This has been really cool, and I've taken a lot more than we asked, to be honest. This has been great. I really love what you're saying around seeking that wisdom and just seeking help in terms of not having it all together in the gym. you know, if there's someone like you who's achieved so much, who's still going out and looking for ways to grow, then the people listening and even us as well, there is no excuse for continued growth, you know?
I mean, you can always learn. One advice, if there's any trainers, and you'll probably know, it's like any trainers or coaches watching this, I don't ever feel like you can't learn from everyone else. Because,
exactly. We will be putting Katie's Instagram. And have you got anything else, Katie, that you want us to put on our podcast? Like anything else?
You guys
I don't know. Yeah. Just like my Instagram or my app or my website or whatever.
Yeah. And also
the people can see it right now.
Exactly.
They
so
can
put
see
it
now.
Yeah. And also is the one last question, is Katie ever going to do another bodybuilding comp? Is it possible, or is it never going to happen? Or if she's going to do it?
Totally possible. But totally I will be switching federations.
So you'll be doing WBFF.
That's what I would do, yeah.
That's the plan. Awesome. Nice. Well, Katie, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming and joining us. You know, I think this interview is going to be so helpful for a lot of women out there. And it's going to help them a lot mentally as well, especially seeing a person like you who's, I should say pretty famous in New Zealand, especially with the New Zealand muscle post and all that. So, and also your app is coming. Your app is launching very soon.
Yeah, talk to us real quick about the app.
Yeah, exactly. Talk to us about the app.
Okay, so it's been quite a journey, but it's finally nearly ready. Version 1 is basically just all my online coaching that I already do via email. A lot easier. Version 2 is going to have more like preset programs, like 6 weeks booty growth, 6 weeks shredding or whatever. And so I'll kind of have the component of, if you're not looking for one-on-one coaching, you can get programs, and you can still live chat me through the app and ask me questions throughout. It just won't be as personalized. And it's going to be like a sort of subscription basis. And I'm really excited because there's so much work into it and so much time, so much money.
Awesome. That'll be good. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Katie, for coming. Thank you, Nash.
No problem.
All right. Stay tuned for this episode, which it's gonna be out now. Anyway, when they watch it, what am I talking?
It's out now. What are you on about?
What am I talking? I know. What am I talking? Right. All right, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to us, Nash Push Podcast. Find us on Instagram, Nash Push Podcast, on YouTube, Spotify. Exactly. This interview will be on Spotify as well. Thank you, Katie, so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right.
We are out.
Out.